Story 1. In 2020, I lost my uncle to a heart attack, an aunt to COVID-19, my cousin relapsed and overdosed, and my husband died during what was supposed to have been a routine surgery. Story 2. Honestly, the past year, I've come to realize my family will never be there for me in the way I need. They have a tendency to talk over me at any chance and exclude me unless they need me for something. Little regard or care is ever given to what I want or feel, to the point I've been told, "You'll never know how bad you make us feel when you say we make you feel bad," as a way to try and get me to stop talking about how they treat me. I had a full-on emotional breakdown about a year ago, explicitly laying out the ways they treat me and how much I hate it, at least from my sisters. The only takeaway is that one of them now recognizes when she's doing it, might apologize, but keeps on doing it. My parents are oblivious, but when I tell them this, I get told, "Are you sure you're not doing something wrong?" when they constantly interrupt and talk over you right after you start speaking. I've realized for my own mental health, either they need to treat me better or I need to spend far less time among them. It's heartbreaking to feel excluded, used, and shamed by the very people who claim to love you, who otherwise absolutely have shown to care and support. But there's one way that really matters in which they turn a blind eye and it just lingers. Because I want to stress, they're not bad people. They didn't care at all when I came out. They're empathetic towards the plights of others, and I'd say at their core they want life to be better for everyone. It's just they're used to treating me poorly, and I'm tired of it. Story 3. Last year was really tough for me. I moved to the United States and, unfortunately, lost touch with all my friends back home. It felt like a huge part of my life just disappeared overnight, and adjusting to a new place without familiar faces has been hard. I miss them a lot, and it's been challenging to make new connections. It has been a lonely experience, but I am trying to stay hopeful and open to making new friends here. Has anyone else been through something similar? Story 4. Dang. I am genuinely sorry for everyone who has lost someone or something. I hope peace and healing find all of you, and happy days are ahead. All my love is sent your way. Story 5. The most heartbreaking year is the one where you lose what you thought you couldn't live without, but somehow found the strength to survive. It's the year that broke you only to show you how strong you truly are. Story 6. In 2017, I experienced a major back injury and underwent surgery, which delayed a scheduled hip replacement. Then my house burned to the ground, and I had to put my beloved blue heeler, Gus, down 3 days after the fire. Story 7. 2022 was both the most heartbreaking and most empowering year for me. My wife and I had 2 miscarriages, and one of the doctors straight up told us that having kids might not be in the cards for us after the second one. The second miscarriage was especially the hardest. My wife passed 3 pregnancy tests, and she experienced the trademark signs of pregnancy in the first 2 months. The first doctor said things were looking really bright for us, and we were excited. Then we went for the ultrasound and we learned the truth. A few of our friends were having great pregnancies in the meantime and talking about how happy they were, and we had to smile and try to hide the pain. 3 miscarriages over 2 years, and 2 happened in 1 year. Then, towards the end of the year, my wife slipped on our porch, fell off it and broke her arm. I didn't hear her from inside through the wind and rain, but when I noticed she had been gone for a while, she was letting the dogs outside. I walked up to the window and heard her crying. I felt totally helpless and guilty. I found her on the ground in the water and mud, and my heart broke. The next day she was coming downstairs, and I went into a crying fit because I imagined her falling down the stairs and getting hurt again. Finally, I was in the throes of early sobriety. I had just entered my second year totally sober, and I had all sorts of difficult emotions. There were so many days I wanted a beer, and I couldn't drink soda or anything because the carbonation reminded me of beer. The year was empowering in the sense that I learned we were strongest in our hardship because we relied on each other to be okay. It was also empowering because I accepted that many things are beyond my control, but regardless, I could choose sobriety regardless of my circumstances. Story 8. In 2006, my father suddenly passed away, and my family was devastated. He was the glue that held us together, and none of us truly recovered from the loss. My life went completely off track and fell apart in many aspects. I know that if he had lived, things would have been much better for everyone in various ways. Story 9. From 2016 to 2017, there was a suicide attempt, followed by a 6-month gap. Then my maternal grandmother passed away. After another 6 months, my father died. I'm glad I never talked about the first incident with either of them, though. Story 10. On January 7th, 2016, my 15-year-old stepson committed suicide. I haven't been right since. Finally, I am starting therapy tomorrow after neglecting myself. It's okay to ask for help if you're hurting people. Story 11. In 2002 to 2003, I lost both parents, was stalked, my home was ransacked, and I moved 800 miles away to escape my stalker. I started a new job, underwent surgery for a life-threatening health issue, which was surely stress-related, and a new relationship ended. Story 12. From 2005 to 2008, I lost my grandfather in 2005 due to cancer. I had a hard time dealing with the loss. I became suicidal in 2007. The school district went bonkers and treated me like a criminal for some reason. They suspended me for the rest of the freshman year. I had to see a therapist who gave me medication which didn't seem to work, but instead, I decided to use logic. For some reason, I still had to see the school psychologist for the rest of high school, despite me being fine. Story 13. During the school year of 2014 to 2015, I was severely depressed and extremely suicidal at the ages of 12 to 13. I genuinely thought I would successfully end my own life. Then, the 2015 to 2016 school year turned out to be the best year of my life to this day. The second worst period was my freshman year of high school, from 2016 to 2017. It wasn't as bad as 7th grade, but it was really, really bad. I wasn't supposed to live to 14, yet here I am at 22, still somehow alive. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you view it, I know I'll eventually die by my own hand. My fate is already set in stone. There's nothing I can do to progress in life as I wasn't supposed to live this long. My story ended at 14. I'm not supposed to be here. I've made corrections based on your requests, removed any sections that required alterations for special characters or links, and reframed sentences to improve coherence while maintaining the original message. If you are feeling distressed or having suicidal thoughts, it is crucial to seek assistance from professionals or trusted individuals in your life. Support and help are always available, and it's important to reach out. Story 14. 2021 was a rough year for me, mostly the summer and fall months. Everything that could go wrong did. First, my youngest cat suddenly became ill. I took him to the emergency room, and they told me he had lymphoma, only 5 years old. The absolute sweetest boy, too. I took him home with medications. It seemed very early stage, so he should have had time, maybe even treatable. I had to put him down the next morning as he could barely even stand. He went downhill like that in under 24 hours. My oldest cat ended up getting very sick as well because he had lost his friend, but he is still around today. Then, 2 days later, I go to the barn to visit my horse to cheer myself up. I notice right away that he's the only one inside. I pull him out and he's putting no weight on his right front. Not a broken leg, but I spent weeks rehabbing him and spent thousands on x-rays and special shoes to get him through it. The barn owner was never going to text me that he was injured. We moved barns shortly after. Within 2 weeks of moving him, my oldest mare, who was at a retirement barn, started acting strange and going off her feed. It was not unusual for her since she was super picky. One day, she coalesced, and I immediately panicked. She had never been sick in the 10 years I had her. It is never good for a 27-year-old horse. The vet showed up and found a basketball-sized tumor around her bladder and uterus. I had to have her put down that night. I had a bunch of other things that happened between all these events, and it was just a horrible year all around. Story 15. This year could be shaping up to be that year. I just lost my girlfriend and job in 48 hours. The period from 2020 to 2021 was also bad with the pandemic. I was in my last year of undergraduate studies, and I think it ruined my final 2 semesters, not to mention the sheer amount of anxiety I felt because of things in my personal life mixed with academics. Story 16. Definitely 2021. I was getting over my first breakup, got involved in a minor car accident but lost the car in the process. My eating was out of control, lost my job earlier in the year, missed an entire semester of school, and my self-esteem was at an all-time low. I am so glad I overcame these obstacles and am doing so much better now. Story 17. All the really bad ones seem to also have a pile of good. In 2014, my girlfriend and I bought our house. We have been married almost 8 years now and we love our house. We bought it and spent a month painting, upgrading, and moving in and adopted cats. Then, about 2 months after closing, my grandpa died. He was and is my most important family member to me. He taught me so much, understood me, and we really enjoyed all the time we spent together. He thought the world of my wife. At least I got to show him pictures of the house and what I had achieved. I would like to think he would be proud of me, and I am using a lot of what he taught me to spend endless weekends on this labor of love. Story 18. 2019 was a crazy year. Started it in January on my honeymoon. In June we moved to a new state. In November we celebrated our first wedding anniversary. And then 2 weeks after that, she wanted to open the marriage up. I guess the bright spot was going to Disney in December. That was cool. Honestly, I think this year was the roughest. Found out the person mentioned above got married to the guy she left me for, and the next person I dated after that, whom I stupidly broke up with because of unresolved trauma from that first relationship, got engaged this year. And I tried and failed to date people this year, much the same every year since fall of 2021. Even with therapy, what I had been through before deeply messed up my sense of trust. In myself and in others, it seems so and now my social anxiety has gone haywire with no friends or partners, and being in my 30s, that's caused me to isolate besides work and just go back to the state I was before I started dating at 25. Doesn't feel like I'm meant to be dating. My brain is too messed up for it and self-sabotages even when something is going well. Never imagined this is where I would be mentally or physically when moving here with the love of my life at the time in 2019. But thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, dizzy face. Cool, cool, cool. Cool. Cool meme, upside down face. Story 19, probably in 2023, I had a good job, good money, and a loving family. I started having seizures, which caused brain damage and was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Now, I am a shut-in who can't think their way out of a paper bag. Story 20, June 2021 to July 2022. It started when my wife was told she was infertile due to her endometriosis, and we were pressured into in vitro fertilization. In August, she had surgery to treat the endometriosis and was ultimately diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis. They apparently used the same type of staging as cancer to indicate how much it has spread. She was heartbroken, but we started in vitro fertilization. October, our dog dies. He was an old soul we adopted at 10 years old. He was 14 and his decline was rapid. November, I begin to have unusual abdominal pain. We put in vitro fertilization on hold, and I spend the next 3 months with doctors trying to pinpoint the cause. I suffer regular panic attacks, can barely function due to the pain, and enter a depressed state. In January, I am diagnosed with biliary dyskinesia, and in February, my gallbladder is removed. Symptoms alleviate almost instantly. In vitro fertilization produces 2 embryos. We decide to implant one at a time. It is the most ethical way to do it. We are very pro-life and only started the process because we would have absolute control over any embryo created. I have no issue with in vitro fertilization if done in an ethical way like this. March. Embryo implanted. Splits into twins. Things are looking good. April, the first ultrasound shows 2 heartbeats and a subchorionic hematoma. Baby's given 50% chance. The next week, a second ultrasound is performed. Only 1 heartbeat is detected, and it is too slow. Hematoma moved directly over the spot they implanted, partially detaching them. At the end of the month, my wife suffers from a painful miscarriage. May-June. I cannot describe the grief. I cannot describe the depression. My wife was the lowest she has ever been. All she wanted was to be a mom. She lost her babies, and I was losing her. I had to change something. The only thing I had control over was my job. July 2022. My wife learns of a doctor who specializes in treating infertility issues like hers. She learns she is a candidate for treatments. She lights up. Depression disappears. Surgery scheduled for the end of the month. I got a new job with a 20% raise, exactly enough to afford treatment. A week before surgery, my wife is confused. Her period has not started. I joke she should take a pregnancy test. She took 3, all positive. April 2023. Our daughter is born. Story 21, 2019. I always tell myself that was the year that I died. It was my first year in college as a medical student, which I thought was the place I belonged. However, as time passed, I started to feel extremely anxious, and it didn't help that for the first time in my life, I was one of the worst students in the class. Everyone was so much better prepared and more intelligent than me. I couldn't keep up with the classes. This prompted a severe insecurity in me that led me to become very depressed, to the point I dropped the career and had to seek psychiatric help. I had never felt so worthless in my life because I was seen as a gifted kid all my life, but I couldn't live up to the expectations. Then came the pandemic and everything turned worse. I started to develop health problems that I couldn't take proper care of since most hospitals were fully focused on dealing with COVID-19. The health problems I had ultimately led me to undergo surgery, but sadly I still have sequels. Basically, I had a breakdown mentally and physically. Also, I lost contact with almost all my friends because I became withdrawn since I felt like a complete failure and didn't want them to see me in that state. A couple of years have passed and I can say that I'm in a better place now, but I'm no longer the man I was before. That person died in 2019 and is never coming back.